So joining us live now for our daily analysis of the federal election races, CTV News political commentator Scott Reid. Good morning, Scott. Let's start with Nick Nanos's latest numbers. It showed that the Liberal overall party support down by about 3 points, while the Conservatives are unchanged. Are we moving towards kind of this margin of error territory this final week into the campaign?
I don't think so. I think there's still a pretty sizable lead, actually, on the national basis. But even more important is what Nick's numbers show in the province of Ontario. So you see there, like, look, that's a 6-point lead. And in the province of Ontario, you see still 10, 12-point advantage for the Liberals. And that means they're going to cash in a ton of seats, and also quite a fair bit ahead in the province of Quebec. I think the critical thing to watch, actually, in this next number of days is Quebec. If the Liberals look like they're on course to win this election, what happens in Quebec? There is some evidence that the Bloc have been rallying. They've been rising since the debates. And does that mean it starts to chew into the Liberal lead to the point where some of those big seat windfalls they were hoping for that would carry them into majority are at risk? And does that mean we'll be watching on election night wondering whether there's a minority or majority government carrying us forward?
Okay, so we'll definitely watch for that in 6 days' time. Scott, in the meantime, today, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, is expected to release his costed platform. I'm an avid listener to you on Curse of Politics, and you and your colleagues on that podcast all talk about how that might not be the greatest strategy right now. What do you make of this close to Election Day to release this costed platform now?
Well, listen, there are lots of people who say, I want to see the platforms. I believe that, leaders should be held to account for their promises and make us show how the math adds up. Except the math never adds up in these platforms. It didn't, really add up in the Liberal platform. It won't add up in today's platform. If you take a look at the promises that have been made, Pierre Poilievre promises to do everything that Mark Carney has said he's going to do. Cut taxes, protect health care and education, invest more in defense and other programs, and where all the savings going to come from. So I think he's going to spend the whole day answering questions about how he makes all of this add up, when, let's be honest, the true issue of this campaign is how do we deal with Donald Trump? It isn't going to be about budget balance, and as important as those considerations are, all of these campaigns have got to get back to these critical core questions. If you're behind in Ontario and you're the Conservatives, you got to get back to cost of living. You got to get back to getting government off people's backs. You think that's what's going to move voters in the 905. And if you're the Liberals, you've got to get back to Trump. And in particular, you got to scare the living hell out of people in Quebec that Donald Trump is going to come for their culture, their language, their way of life. That's what this battle has to be. And in some ways, these platform days are getting in the way of all that.
Yeah, Scott, we've certainly heard from a lot of clips from the viewers that we've interviewed, not viewers or people that did advanced polling, that a lot of them are concerned about Donald Trump and Canadian sovereignty. Let's turn right now to the Conservatives and kind of this generational gap we're dealing with in terms of which voters are voting for them. And they recently put out an ad showing kind of two old guys golfing. What do you make of that?
Seeing that guy's trying to fix his slice, so it speaks to me directly, not just because he's no gray hair on the range, but it's a really interesting ad. It takes Pierre Poilievre out of it, really focuses on older men, and why? Why are the Conservatives focusing on older men? Typically, you would expect those guys are voting Conservative easy, except not in this election. They've been moved over to Carney. However, the Conservatives believe that those are the easiest votes to retrieve. The 55-year-old plus men, if you can speak to them directly, you might be able to bring them back into your camp. That's the key to unlocking seats in 905. That's the key to winning Ontario. That's the key to getting back into a competitive position in this election. But to do it, they've had to focus on a demographic you never would have thought they didn't have already counted in their column, and they have to take Pierre Poilievre, their leader, out of the ad. Super interesting. But by the same token, Conservatives are way ahead with young men who typically young people do vote Liberal or NDP. So we've got a cats living with dogs, upside down demographic world, and it's going to depend on which of those folks come out. The older people, do they come out to vote? Or these angry younger people who are upset about the way of the world, do they come out to vote?
Yeah.
Lots to watch for in the dying days of this campaign, that's for sure. Scott Reid, appreciate this. Thanks so much. We'll chat again Wednesday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Hey, guys.